So I want you all to think about the items that you own. Anything from televisions, computers, clothes, random everyday products, etc. How much of the things that you own do you think actually come from the United States? It's a lot less than what you would think. Many things that we own actually get imported. For instance, your clothes may be made and imported from Bangladesh. The parts that go into building your computer may come from a factory in China, and so on. However, sometimes the price of these items that are imported can rise in price. This is because of something called tariff rates. It is essentially a tax imposed on imports. According to the World Bank, the United States imposes an average tariff rate of about 2.7% on shipments that are imported into the country. This essentially brings the price up of the products that we are consuming. With all of that said, I would like to talk to you today about the concept of free trade. Free trade refers to a situation in which a government does not attempt to influence, through quotas or duties, what its citizens can buy from another country or what they can produce and sell to another country. The points that I will be mentioning are the reasons for why countries participate in trade and a debate whether to participate in free trade or why a country should not. So let me start off with why countries participate in free trade to begin with. One of the most important reasons why countries participate in trade is because of the concept known as comparative advantage. This is a theory on trade that was created by an economist named David Ricardo. Comparative advantage essentially states that it makes sense for a country to specialize in the production of those goods that it produces most efficiently and to buy the goods that it produces less efficiently from other countries, even if this means buying goods from other countries that it can produce more efficiently itself, even though that might sound counterintuitive. An example of this is how the United States has a big supply of educated and skilled labor. This means that the things that the country produces more efficiently are products such as green technology. On the other hand, it would be less efficient in producing clothes because that kind of industry relies on unskilled labor, which is less abundant in the United States, and would be more expensive to fund than in a lower income nation such as Bangladesh that is more abundant in unskilled labor and can produce such products more efficiently at a lower cost. In accordance with trade, free trade arguments may stir up some fears for home nations. Some of the main fears that people have with participating in a free trade economy is job displacement and lower wages. Since free trade leads to countries importing products that they do not make as efficiently, there may be job displacements in those particular industries within the home nation. The assumption that free trade um, has is that more jobs would be created by exporting industries while there would be displacements in importing industries. This would mean that the jobs would actually even out. However, Josh Bivens of the Economic Policy Institute states that because trade deficits have risen over the past decade, more jobs have been displaced by imports than created by exports. And trade deficits are essentially when we receive more imports than we do exports. Part of the reason for free trade is because products can be made cheaper abroad because wages abroad may be cheaper than in the home nation. This is an argument that has been made against NAFTA, which is the North American Free Trade Agreement. Wages in Mexico, for instance, are a lot lower than those in the United States. When certain products are imported from Mexico instead of being produced in the United States, home nation the home nation workers might have to compete for jobs within that industry, which become lower when competing against wages abroad. Therefore, the negative impact received from free trade is more so from producers. The picture above from the Economic Policy Institute shows the job losses on average as a result of NAFTA deficits. These fears that I mentioned are only one side of the story. Even though there may be some job displacement and lower wages, free trade can bring upon a lot of positive effects. Bringing it back to comparative advantage, since free trade allows for a nation to specialize in the industry that they work most efficiently, it can make a country more competitive and innovative. Economic growth is the result of innovation, which ends up leading to better paying jobs as well as higher living standards. An example of the effect of free trade can be seen by the graph above created by Trading Economics. China has entered into multiple free trade agreements throughout the years, and even though there are multiple factors that can have an impact on wages, free trade is an important factor. As you can see, there has been quite an increase on the average yearly wages in China throughout the decades. Free trade also enables more goods and services to reach consumers at lower prices. The more tariffs and barriers that are applied by the home nation, the more of an increase that the cost of goods for the consumer will be. The effects that affects us as the common person, because the higher the taxes and barriers, the more that we will be paying for our everyday products. Free trade also offers consumers the most choices in terms of consumption. Denise Froning from the Heritage Foundation states that since free trade fosters competition, spurring companies to innovate and develop better products and to bring more of their goods and services to the market, keeping prices low and quality high in order to retain or increase their market share. So let's summarize. So today I talked about why countries participate in trade, the negative effects it can have on producers, and the positive effects that it can have on the consumer. Even though free trade is not something that the common person actually thinks about, it affects each and every one of us because we all participate one way or another as consumers in the market. This means that our spending, consumption, wages, etc., are all results of free trade.